We have all felt it. That tremor of excitement when you see a new chart configuration, a new line of code, or a new moving average crossover. This time, it feels different. This time, you are one indicator away. You are convinced that the only thing separating you from consistent profitability is that single perfect mathematical formula, the legendary God indicator. You are standing on the edge of the promised land, and all you need is the key. The market has been cruel, yes, but only because you haven't found the right lens yet. This belief is the first symptom of a profound psychological addiction. You are not looking for an edge, you are looking for certainty. And certainty, in this game, is a fantasy. The God indicator is a myth designed by your subconscious to protect your ego. It promises flawless entry, perfect exit, and zero painful drawdowns. You find a system, perhaps one based on volume, divergence, or complex wave theory. You backtest it, and it looks beautiful. You commit capital. For a week, maybe two, it works. You feel like a genius. Then, the inevitable happens. The market shifts. A drawdown hits. It doesn't even have to be a large drawdown. It just has to be painful. That pain is the trigger. Instead of looking inward, instead of analyzing your execution, your risk management, or your discipline, you look at the tool. The indicator failed me. Immediately, the search begins again. You scrap months of work, convinced the flaw was external, and dive back into the forums, the books, the endless YouTube rabbit holes. You are stuck in the intermediate stage, not because your current strategy is inherently flawed, but because you refuse to let it run long enough to prove its own validity. You have already mastered the basics of charts, candlesticks, and support and resistance. You know what a profit and loss statement is. You understand volatility. What you don't understand, or rather, what you refuse to accept, is that the market is a perfect mirror of your internal state. You believe the system is the variable. You believe the moving average setting is the reason for failure. But the truth is harsher. You are the variable. Your impatience, your fear of missing out, your need for instant gratification, your inability to sit through boredom. These are the real inputs destroying your expectancy. You are trying to engineer psychological stability through mathematical complexity. It will never work. The irony is that the more complex your system becomes, the more fragile it is. You stack indicators upon indicators, trying to confirm certainty that doesn't exist. You have 3 exponential moving averages, a stochastic oscillator, a relative strength index, and a custom-coded proprietary indicator, all blinking red and green. When they all align, the trade feels safe. But how often do they all align? And when they don't, the confusion paralyzes you. Simplicity is robustness. Complexity is a hiding place. It allows you to blame the system when the trade fails, rather than owning the decision you made under pressure. You are addicted to the search itself, because the search carries a profound cargo. It is not the indicator you crave. It is the hope it represents. The hope that you can bypass the difficult, boring work of self-mastery. You are addicted to the idea that you can buy your way out of discipline. You believe if you just find the right formula, you won't have to face your own fear and greed anymore. That hope is the true drug. But what happens when you finally stop searching? What happens when you realize the map is simple and the territory is you? That is the moment the true work begins. The true work begins when you stop looking outside yourself for the answer. That endless search for the Holy Grail indicator is nothing more than an elaborate mechanism for ego protection. You are trying to externalize the locus of control. You believe if the system is perfect, then any loss must be the system's fault, not the result of your imperfect execution. This is the core mythology you must dismantle. The belief that the market is something external that needs to be controlled by a sophisticated tool. It's never the system's fault. Why do you click on that video promising the 90% win rate, the guaranteed signal, or the secret algorithm? Because you crave certainty in an inherently probabilistic environment. You want a shield against accountability. You want a magical line that tells you, unequivocally, you are safe now. Enter here. This desire is not rational, it is primal, it is the ego demanding safety. If you take a loss based on a decision you made using a complex, expensive indicator, your ego can shrug and say, "The tool failed me." If you take a loss based on a simple, self-defined price-action rule, the failure belongs to you, the decision maker. You are not seeking confirmation, you are seeking permission. Permission to risk your capital without the crushing weight of personal responsibility. You want a permission slip signed by a supposed expert or a proprietary algorithm, allowing you to bypass the necessary emotional labor of trading. What happens when that permission slip expires? Look at your charts. Be honest. How many indicators are stacked on top of each other? A moving average, a relative strength index, a volume profile, maybe some custom oscillator you bought last week. This complexity is not rigor. It is fear dressed up in mathematics. It is analysis paralysis masquerading as an advanced strategy. You are hiding from the decision. You spend hours optimizing lagging indicators, data points that only confirm what has already happened, while the reliable, undeniable truth of raw price action screams silently beneath the noise. This is the deepest cognitive dissonance of the struggling intermediate trader. You are arguing with the market, trying to force it to conform to your messy, multicolored hypothesis, rather than simply listening to what the price is telling you right now. Stop. Ask yourself the true cost of this complexity. It is not just the subscription fees or the time spent backtesting defunct formulas. It is the slow, insidious erosion of your decisiveness. It is the opportunity cost of trades you miss because you are waiting for 3 different signals to align perfectly, waiting for the indicators to grant you permission. The market rewards speed and clarity. Your current setup rewards hesitation. The paradox is this: the simpler the map, the clearer the territory becomes. You are trading your confidence for complexity. You are sacrificing true edge for the illusion of safety. Every indicator, every formula, every signal is just a reflection of human psychology and the collective decisions of millions of participants, the very thing you are trying to avoid facing within yourself. You are searching for a map that gives you the exact answer, but the market only gives probabilities. We must talk about the true nature of risk. It's not about the dollar amount. It's about the emotional capital you invest in these external fantasies. Because if the indicator isn't the key and the Holy Grail doesn't exist, then the entire structure of your current trading identity collapses. What is left when the safety blanket is removed? And how do you transition from being a signal follower to becoming the decision maker? The cost of this indicator addiction is not just the commissions you pay. It's the silent, deadly drain of opportunity loss. You think you're being diligent. You call it system refinement. But what you are actually doing is resetting the clock every 3 weeks. Every time you jump from strategy A to strategy B, you don't just lose the last 3 months of testing. You discard the emotional data you accrued. You erase the memory of how strategy A felt when it hit drawdown. You deny yourself the critical experience of watching a system you believe in work itself out of a hole. This is the difference between data and wisdom. Data is numbers on a screen. Wisdom is knowing how you will react when those numbers turn against you. By hopping, you never accumulate the necessary sample size, not of trades, but of emotional resilience. How can you trust a system when you haven't seen it fail and recover? And more importantly, how can you trust yourself in that process? You are paying the price of restarting the learning curve over and over again. Let us differentiate. System evolution is necessary. It is the adaptation required when market structure fundamentally changes. Neurotic optimization, however, is a manifestation of emotional discomfort. You are not refining the edge. You are trying to smooth out the inevitable pain points. You are attempting to optimize away the drawdown. You are trying to backfit a perfect solution onto a messy, unpredictable past. And this is the great paradox. The more perfectly you optimize a system to fit the past, the more brittle and guaranteed to fail it becomes in the future. Optimization kills robustness. It eliminates the margin of error, the slack that allows a system to absorb unexpected shocks. You are sacrificing longevity for the illusion of immediate certainty. Why do we do this? Because the search for the perfect indicator is the ego's mechanism to avoid accountability. If the system is perfect, then the losses are not your fault. If the system is 80% accurate, you never have to face the fear of being wrong. This relentless search is not about increasing your profitability. It is about decreasing your psychological pain. You are trading money for comfort. But the market does not reward comfort. It rewards consistency. Think about this reality. Every successful long-term trader is operating a strategy that fails frequently. They are comfortable being wrong 60% of the time, or 55% of the time. They understand that the edge is not in the win rate. The edge is in the flawless execution of the rules. The complex, hyper-optimized system that promises 80% accuracy, but which you trade inconsistently, riddled with doubt and emotional interference, will always underperform the simple, robust 60% system that you execute flawlessly. Always. The 80% system requires you to be a superhuman. The 60% system requires you to be a disciplined machine. The difference is not the win rate. The difference is the flawless execution of the edge you already possess. You already have a system that works, but your ego refuses to accept its limitations. Your addiction to optimization is just a distraction from the real work. The real work is not in finding the edge. The real work is in holding still. It is in embracing what I call the boring edge. And that, my friend, is where true wealth is built. The market does not care about your feelings, but it is a perfect mirror of your state. It is the ultimate reflecting pool. When you sit down at the screen feeling chaotic inside, impatient, desperate, or angry from a previous loss, the chart instantly appears chaotic. You will see false signals for immediate entries. You will perceive volatility where a patient trader sees consolidation. The fluctuations you complain about are often just the externalization of your own internal volatility. You believe the market is random, but the only truly random variable you face is the inconsistency of your own execution. We are masters of selective perception. You might identify a textbook signal based on your moving average cross, but you filter that signal through the lens of yesterday's devastating loss. If you are desperate to recover capital, that bullish divergence will look 10 times stronger than it actually is. If you are sitting on a recent massive win, you are overconfident, and you ignore the confluence of selling pressure simply because your ego demands a bigger trade. You believe you are being objective, but your brain is simply confirming the emotional narrative it is currently running. You are not reading the chart. You are reading your profit and loss anxiety onto the chart. Stop lying to yourself. This is why the search for the God indicator is so seductive. It offers external absolution for internal indiscipline. If I just find the perfect proprietary oscillator, the perfect volume profile setting, or the perfect institutional footprint indicator, then that indicator is responsible for the outcome, not me. It becomes the perfect scapegoat. You violate your own risk management rules, you move your stop loss, and then when the trade inevitably fails, you blame the lagging nature of the relative strength index. You blame the sensitivity of the average true range. You blame the indicator for the indiscipline of the executioner. Adding complexity never solves basic indiscipline. If you cannot follow a 3-step rule set, entry, stop loss, take profit, why do you think a 30-step, proprietary, algorithmically weighted system will suddenly make you disciplined? It will not. It just gives you more variables to mismanage, more excuses to ignore the core violation of your process. You are adding layers of technical analysis to mask a fundamental psychological fracture. It is time for the mental switch. This is the hardest work you will ever do. Stop asking the market the wrong question. You are constantly asking, what indicator works? That question is worthless. The only question that matters is this: what version of myself can execute reliably? It is a question of identity, not a question of analysis. Can the version of you who is terrified of losing $500 consistently execute a strategy that requires risking $500? The answer is no. You must become the person who trusts the system, which means you must become the person who trusts yourself to follow the system. Self-trust is the ultimate edge. It is the only indicator that cannot be bought, only earned through relentless, boring repetition. Your system is fine. Your analysis is often fine. Your entries are probably fine. The problem is the space between the signal and the click. It is the moment of hesitation, the moment of self-doubt, the moment you decide to double the position size based on a feeling. You must fix your relationship with uncertainty. The market is uncertain by definition. Your job is not to eliminate uncertainty, but to embrace it with an unshakable core. The only chart that truly needs fixing is the chart of your own psychological resilience. And that resilience, that unwavering core, is built on only one thing: radical acceptance. Radical acceptance leads directly to the core paradox of profitability. You believe you need more control, more confirmation, more data points. You chase the perfect entry, the infallible setup. But the truth is, to gain control over your profit and loss, you must first surrender control over the outcome of the next trade. This is the surrender paradox. The search for the God indicator is, fundamentally, a desperate search for 100% certainty in a domain defined by uncertainty. That certainty does not exist. The market does not offer guarantees. It only offers probabilities. Your edge is not about avoiding losses. Your edge is the mathematical certainty that if you apply a positive expectancy system over a large enough sample size, the probabilities will eventually align in your favor. To realize that truth, you must stop shopping. You must define enough. Look at your charts right now. How many indicators are layered on top of the price action? If the answer is more than 2, you are likely still hiding from the decision to commit. Complexity is not intelligence. Complexity is just camouflage for fear. Fear of being wrong. Fear of missing the move. Fear of accepting that a simple, quantifiable edge is all you need. Define your system using the bare minimum necessary to identify your trade thesis. Maybe it's a simple moving average crossover combined with a volume spike. Maybe it's just price action at key support and resistance. That is sufficient. That is enough. Now, you must commit to the most difficult, most painful, and most necessary practical step of your trading career. You must commit to executing that single, defined system for 100 consecutive trades, regardless of the profit and loss outcome. 100 trades, not 100 days. 100 verifiable, recorded executions of your entry criteria, your stop-loss placement, and your take-profit target. This commitment is the mechanism of surrender. It strips the emotional weight from any single trade. When you know you have 99 more trades to execute, the inevitable loss of the current one becomes statistically irrelevant. It is simply one data point required for the larger sample size to stabilize and reveal your true edge. Can you commit to being profoundly bored for 3 months straight? Because that is what systematic trading requires. It requires the intentional execution of simple, repetitive actions. The thrill you seek is the addiction. The profit you seek is found in the monotony. Your ego demands excitement, but your account demands discipline. This commitment is not about testing the system. Frankly, if you have back-tested it properly, you already know the historical expectancy. This commitment is about testing you. It is about forging the psychological resilience necessary to sit on your hands when the market is tempting you, and to press the button when the setup finally aligns, even if the last 3 trades were losers. We must reframe patience. Patience is not passive waiting. It is active discipline. It is the refusal to act until the market meets your precise, predefined criteria. It is the strength to stare at a beautiful, moving chart for 3 hours and say, "Not yet, not my setup." It is the stoic acceptance that the market owes you nothing and that your only job is to wait for the gift of a high-probability setup to appear on your screen. If you are still system hopping, if you are still downloading new indicators, watching videos for the next Holy Grail, or tweaking your entry criteria after a single losing day, you are not fighting the market. You are fighting yourself. You are eroding the only asset that truly matters in this game, self-trust. The cost of jumping ship after trade number 19 is not just the $20 you lost. The cost is the complete dismantling of your systematic commitment and the belief that you can follow your own rules. The commitment to 100 trades is not a financial test. It is a psychological contract with yourself. It is the only way to build the internal database of resilience that proves you are not a gambler, but a probabilistic operator. Are you ready to stop searching for the map and finally start walking the path? The greatest challenge will not be the system's win rate. The greatest challenge will be maintaining your composure when the system inevitably hits its maximum expected drawdown. And that, the management of the inevitable psychological pain, is where we must now focus our attention. And that, the management of the inevitable psychological pain, is where we must now focus our attention. You have spent years, perhaps decades, searching for the perfect confluence. The moving average crossover that never fails. The volume spike that guarantees momentum. The oscillator that warns you exactly at the top. You have tried to build a fortress of indicators around your chart, hoping that if you gather enough confirmation, you can shield yourself from the market's inherent uncertainty. But look closely at that search, that obsessive drive to find the God indicator. What were you really seeking? You were not looking for a predictive tool. You were looking for validation. You were looking for a guarantee that would protect your ego from the crushing feeling of being wrong. You wanted the market to confirm that you were smart, you were special, and you deserved the money. This is the hidden stage. The external search for the system was always an internal search for certainty. The true God indicator is not a line on your chart. It is the unwavering, cold, psychological discipline of the trader operating the system. It is the ability to take the next 5 losing trades exactly the same way you took the 5 winning trades. It is the deep-seated adherence to your rules, even when your gut screams for vengeance or your neighbor brags about their latest impossible gain. That is the only edge that cannot be coded, automated, or sold. When you finally strip the charts naked, removing the complexity you piled on as a psychological shield, what remains? Only price, time, and the empty space where your anxiety used to live. The 10 indicators confirming each other did not provide clarity. They provided analysis paralysis, giving you an excuse to hesitate and miss the trade, or worse, giving you 10 reasons to rationalize a bad trade. The minimalist revelation is brutal, but liberating. The market only offers 2 things: price movement and the opportunity to react to it. The challenge now is simplicity. Can you define your entire trading system, your entry criteria, your stop-loss placement, your profit target, and your position sizing on a single postcard? If you cannot, the complexity is serving your ego, not your profit and loss. Complexity guarantees fatigue. Fatigue guarantees mistakes. Mistakes guarantee emotional trading, and emotional trading guarantees the destruction of capital. It is a vicious, self-reinforcing cycle designed to keep you searching forever. If your system is simple, the only variable left to manage is you. The focus shifts entirely from predicting the market to executing your plan flawlessly. You move from the exhausting, futile job of being a psychic to the manageable task of being a technician. The freedom you crave is the freedom from the search itself. Stop looking for the golden key outside the vault. The vault is your own mind. When you finally stop chasing the next Holy Grail, you gain the mental capacity to execute the simple, probable plan you already possess. The final trade is not the one that makes you rich. The final trade is the one where you stop fighting the market and start fighting your own impulses. Look into the reflection staring back at you. That is the only indicator that truly matters. That is the only variable you can truly control. But even the desire for control is a trap. The true power lies not in controlling the impulse itself, but in observing it without reacting. This is the difference between discipline and flow. How do we achieve that state of flow, where the system runs itself and the anxiety dissolves? If your trading is ruled by fear and impatience, you need a system for managing your mind, not just your money. The core of Stoic philosophy, as laid out in Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, is radical acceptance and self-mastery. The emperor wrote about how to remain consistent and composed, whether facing intense pain or chronic illness. His philosophy teaches you how to separate your ruling mind from the chaos of external events, whether that chaos is a barbarian invasion or a painful market drawdown. You will learn how to focus only on what is truly within your power, your own actions and your own judgments. Stop letting external volatility dictate your internal state. Get access to the practical wisdom used by one of history's most powerful and resilient leaders. Add this essential guide to inner peace and unwavering purpose to your library now.